I really don't want to do this. I really don't want to do this, but we got to do it. We got to do it. And you know what? I'm so annoyed that I've got to do this. But I don't know if my daughter is a fan of Ellen's right now. I mean, I know that she's talked about Ellen in the past. And this is why this is important. This is why this is important because it takes very little time. We used to get Gore Vidal used to come on the show, the Majority Report on Air America. He would come into studio. And I think around the time that he had written United States of Amnesia. And I couldn't quite get what he was talking about. I mean, I understood what he was saying, but I didn't really genuinely feel it. And I think part of it was that I was not engaged in politics, in 2004, 2005, to the extent that I have been now. I've been doing this for 15 years on a professional basis, looking every day at the news. And so I'm hyper conscious to the fact of how quickly people forget certain realities. And that's why we got to do this. This is Ellen DeGeneres. Is this just a picture? Is this just
That's the still.
Yeah, this is a still shot of her at a football game with George Bush and Laura Bush. Now, you could probably say, criticize people, in the same way like Michelle Obama. Big fan of George Bush because he gives her a mint. Now, there's different pressures on Michelle Obama than there is on Ellen, right? I mean, Michelle Obama, you've got to sort of maintain, there is a civic sort of duty to maintain some semblance between presidents of like some type of, nonviolent transfer of power type of stuff. But nevertheless, I would criticize Michelle Obama for this, and I criticize Barack Obama for not impeaching the guy and for trying to turn the page instead of looking back on things like torture, instead of looking back on things like bringing this country into a war where we were responsible for the deaths of hundreds of thousands of civilians. Probably, in some level, you could probably track it just to the 100 who died this week, the 6,000 who were injured.
And you know what? Jane would not take the candy.
Exactly. And so it's not just Ellen, but Ellen's the latest, so we're going to talk about it. Here she is. She goes on her show. I will remind you, too, and maybe Ellen's only referring to this, but I watched George Bush go on national television, a primetime address to the country on how he had to change the Constitution to make sure that gay people were not allowed to get married and have the, 1,900 rights that are attributed to married people in this country. But maybe she's not thinking at all of the thousands, the hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians who were killed. These are by our own Defense Department numbers. I'm giving you the conservative numbers. 4 million refugees, 2 million external, 2 million internal. Here is Ellen DeGeneres talking about the haters who have an issue with the fact that I hung out with George Bush.
During the game, they showed a shot of George and me laughing together, and so people were upset. They thought, why is a gay Hollywood liberal sitting next to a conservative Republican president? Didn't even notice I'm holding the brand new iPhone 11. But a lot of people were mad, and they did what people do when they're mad. They tweet, but here's one tweet that I loved. This person says, Ellen and George Bush together makes me have faith in America again. And exactly. Here's the thing. I'm friends with George Bush. In fact, I'm friends with a lot of people who don't share the same beliefs that I have. We're all different, and I think that we've forgotten that that's okay that we're all different. For instance, I wish people wouldn't wear fur. I don't like it, but I'm friends with people who wear fur. And I'm friends with people who are furry, as a matter of fact. I have friends who should tweeze more. And but just because I don't agree with someone on everything doesn't mean that I'm not going to be friends with them. When I say be kind to one another, I don't mean only the people that think the same way that you do. I mean be kind to everyone. Doesn't matter.
Well, now I wonder if she really means that. I mean, I wonder if she means that. Would you be kind to someone who you know to be a serial rapist? Would you be kind to someone that you know to be a serial murderer? My guess is, well, maybe if they were, would you be kind to someone who you saw beating a child?
Maybe if we went to the same country club.
Well, I mean, I'm curious. Maybe she has the ability to be kind to every human being, even Hitler. I would be kind to. I would hang out and laugh at a football game at Hitler. Now I know I'm using an extreme, but my point is like there must be a line where you determine that you will not be kind to someone, that it is actually unhelpful to a better society to show that you can get along with them, unhelpful to endorse them by being around them. And if there is a line, then what we're doing is we're arguing what constitutes someone who has passed that line. And I would argue that someone who allowed, promoted, protected the United States becoming a torture nation, I would argue that someone who lied the country into a war that killed 100,000 plus innocent civilians, I would argue that someone who expanded the ability for us to be surveilled, I would argue that the person who ignored warnings about a terrorist attack to hit the United States, I would say that person crosses the line for me. And if Ellen got up there and said, like, look, I can forgive the killing of the 100,000 plus civilians, and I can forgive the torture, or I have a problem with it, but that doesn't mean that it's going to get in the way of me having fun with that person. That would be the honest response. But basically what she's doing is burying history, burying truth. And that's what I have a problem with.
You know, I bet she wasn't even thinking about all the bodies he's got on him when she said that. I bet she was thinking about like the gay marriage stuff.
Yeah, I think she was. I think she was. And you know what? On some level, like, I can understand that. I can understand, like, you know, saying that, like, people evolve. You could pretend that it was, you know, he evolved as opposed to just, like, was leveraging it for his own personal gain. But, I mean, I don't know that I would do it, but if that's what she's talking about, but she's ignoring the incredible human suffering and toll that this guy presided over, and just not even ignoring it. She is eliminating it.
Acting like we're upset because we want to police George Bush for thought crime. Like, this isn't about sharing beliefs with him. This is about him acting on those beliefs as the most powerful person in the world.
He harmed this country. Donald Trump would not exist but for George W. Bush.
And if you dislike Donald Trump, maybe you should dislike the one who's got 1 million bodies on him just as much, at least.
But, of course, who will come to her defense? Who will come to her defense? Why? Look, it's Eric Weinstein from the IDW. Great to have you aboard, Ellen. Because and then Weinstein says, now I should add that what I'm affirming is the general principle that she is stating, and not that we should all break bread with anyone and everyone. Now, it sounded like she was saying we should break bread with anyone and everyone. But he says, there are bloodied hands that I would shake and clean ones that I would not. So then he's saying, like, I have a whole nother agenda. I don't have a problem with people whose hands are bloodied. But mostly shunning and shaming just tears us apart. Well, mostly. I mean, if someone said, like, well, this guy worked for the Bush administration, but they just worked in, you know, the Justice Department and they worked in the Civil Rights Division or whatever it is, or this guy worked in Bush's EPA, but he was just, you know, I'd have no problem with that. But what Eric Weinstein is saying here is nothing. He is saying nothing. And she is not saying mostly shunning and shaming just tears apart. If you don't shun and shame someone like George Bush, who do you shun and shame? Oh, I know, Eric. You shun me. You refuse to engage with me.
Do you have the clean hands he wouldn't shake?
I guess maybe my hands are the clean ones that I wouldn't shake. He would engage with Billy Bragg, even though Billy Bragg said much meaner things about Eric than I did. This is, I mean, these people are celebrity chasers. You just look at Dave Rubin has done this desperately. I know for a fact I have talked to reporters who used to do the comedy beat, who Dave Rubin would write, brag about, and, you know, like, please write a story about me. I just had a tweet that went viral. I'm not kidding. The way that they chase Hollywood, I think, really, really exposes what these guys are about. I got news for you. I don't perceive Eric Weinstein as a celebrity, but I am very, very interested in talking and engaging with him. I don't perceive Dave Rubin as a celebrity or Steven Crowder. I have friends who are significantly more famous than these people.
That is true.
And yeah, some who have been in the studio. But I know how destructive their stuff is. I don't care about in any way engaging with Ellen DeGeneres. But I do care that there's going to be, and that video will probably get, I don't know, several million views, several million young people out there who are just not going to get. She's got 35 million subscribers who are just not going to understand that, who just have no sense of what George Bush did at that time.
And the people that do are downers.
Yep.
And she's not going to tell them.
That's right. She's going to do worse than not tell them. She's going to give them another narrative. Like, we just had a disagreement about whether you should kill all these people
They're
for no
thought
reason.
police.
Yep. And the last thing I ever want to do is address what Ellen DeGeneres has said on her TV show, but that's what it is.
Well, it seems like the tide might be turning against that kind of thing, even among liberals. Like the amount of uproar that we've seen over it, or is that just like Twitter not representative?
It may be just Twitter, but it's nice to know that at least there are some people who are conscious of it. And if it's on Twitter, at least there's an opportunity for them to tell other people. I mean, I it's different than when George Bush was president, because there was a lot of people who spoke out about George Bush who got a lot worse treatment than Ellen DeGeneres did now. The Dixie Chicks, they built bonfires when they said they were embarrassed by her. I don't remember Ellen DeGeneres going out there and saying, hey, whoa, wait a second.
It'd be nice.
Yeah, seriously.
Janine Garofalo was constantly harassed. And I don't remember Ellen DeGeneres coming up and saying, hey, wait a second. I mean, give me a break.
Well, that's the great thing about alternative media and social media for all the bad parts of social media. Like, you can say stuff back to these people and you know that you're not alone and you're not crazy for thinking that they're ghouls.
It has, for all the things that suck about Twitter, it has democratized things in a way, as far as it goes, that I think are positive. It gives the opportunity for people who don't have a platform to actually get, to influence the conversation. And I think that's really important. I mean, one of the problems that we have with having all billionaires in the Senate and just wealthy people as congressmen is that they don't hear from other people. And it was also a very much a problem within the media to a large extent And for better or for worse, sometimes it's worse. But the better part is a lot of the media people, they hang out on Twitter. And what they're hearing, that what they're swimming in is influenced by people who don't have power, don't have a sort of a platform outside of Twitter. And that's very helpful. And you don't even need a huge platform in the context of Twitter. You can have, several thousand followers. You could have 100 followers. And if you say the right thing to the right person, it can expand it. You have the opportunity to sort of like carry a message. And I don't know. I think it's pretty good.
I have a friend who knows some people in like local Texas politics and talking about staffers on like Congress people's staffs and stuff like that. And he's telling me about one who's currently having his mind blown by Thomas Frank's Listen Liberal and Jane Mayer's Dark Money. I think we underestimate how much like people just haven't been open to like those arguments at all.
Yep.
Nice.